Please help my daddy. They're trying to kill him." The voice was so small it almost dissolved into the hum of fluorescent lights. But for Evelyn Carter, it cut through the silence like a knife. She froze mid-mop, her heavy frame hunched slightly, breath catching in her throat. Slowly, she turned. At the far end of the marble hallway stood a barefoot little girl. Her blonde hair tangled, her pink dress torn, her cheeks streaked with tears. She couldn't have been more than 5. Evelyn blinked, thinking maybe her tired eyes were playing tricks again. But then the girl stumbled forward, clutching her arm. "They're hurting him," she whispered. "Daddy's in the meeting room. They're hitting him." Evelyn's chest tightened. She dropped the mop, water sloshing across her boots, and crouched down so their eyes met. "What's your name, baby?" she asked softly. "Lily," the girl murmured. "All right, Lily. I need you to stay right here, okay? Don't move, no matter what happens." The girl nodded, trembling. Evelyn straightened, scanning the corners, her instincts waking like an old beast. Her hand still remembered what it felt like to hold a weapon. She tapped her earpiece. Dead. Whoever those men were, they knew how to kill a signal. That meant pros. That meant danger. Outside the boardroom she heard it, a muffled grunt, a thud, a man's strained voice. "Sign it or your daughter disappears before sunrise." Evelyn didn't wait. She swiped her keycard, the door clicked. She kicked it open, the hinges screaming. Inside, chaos. 3 men in black suits froze mid-motion, one with a pistol, another with a stun baton, the third crouched beside a laptop. In the chair, Jonathan Prescott, CEO, bleeding, bound with zip ties. The man with the pistol turned, eyes widening. "What the hell?" He didn't finish. Evelyn moved faster than anyone that size should. Her elbow cracked his wrist, sending the gun spinning. She drove her knee into his ribs. He crumpled, gasping. The man with the baton roared, swinging wide. "Who the hell is this fat bitch?" "Just a janitor," the one at the laptop hissed. "Take her out." He lunged. Evelyn ducked low, grabbed a chair leg, and swept his feet out from under him. He crashed into the table edge with a sickening crunch. The third man shouted, reaching for a metal rod. It flew. She saw it too late. It slammed into her shoulder. Pain shot down her arm. Evelyn bit her tongue, refusing to scream. Blood soaked through her sleeve. "You should have stayed in the damn broom closet," one hissed. She gritted her teeth, forced herself up. The third charged. She ducked, slammed her elbow into his knee, then headbutted him in the chest. He dropped, wheezing. Silence fell. Evelyn stood over them, breathing hard, sweat and blood glistening under the office lights. Jonathan Prescott stared, stunned. "You're the janitor," he said, voice shaking. "I mop floors," she muttered, clutching her arm. "Not blood. But tonight, I didn't have a choice." She sliced his restraints with a box cutter. "Can you walk?" "I think so." "Then move. Your daughter's waiting." He stumbled, and she steadied him with her uninjured arm. When they reached the hall, Lily was still there, eyes wide. "Daddy!" she cried, running to him. He dropped to his knees, wrapping her close. Evelyn leaned against the wall, breath ragged. Pain was winning. "You need to leave this building now," she said. "What's happening? Who were they?" Jonathan gasped. People you trusted, she said. Security's compromised. Maybe your whole board. You don't know who's working for who anymore. And you? Who the hell are you? Can you drive? She asked. Yes. Good. Then follow me. They moved fast, through maintenance corridors and service lifts. Every step sent pain screaming through her shoulder. Blood trailed down her side, but she kept going. Lily held her hand without fear. I knew you'd help us, the little girl whispered. You're lucky she found me, Evelyn told Jonathan. He looked at her, eyes full of questions. What's your name? Evelyn Carter. You're not just a janitor. She gave a faint smile. I was a lot of things before a mop. They slipped through the sub-level exit into the cool Chicago night. Sirens blared faintly above, but the streets here were empty. Evelyn pulled a key fob. An old gray sedan blinked under a tarp. You keep a car here? Jonathan asked. I don't like being trapped, she said. As the sedan pulled away, its headlights off, Evelyn pressed one hand against her wound and muttered, You don't know how deep this goes, Prescott. He looked at her reflection in the window. Then show me. She nodded once. Hold on tight. The car vanished into the city's dark veins, carrying 3 souls bound by blood, betrayal, and something the world had forgotten. Courage. The sedan glided through alleys like a gray ghost, engine low, lights off, city lights refracting in the rain-spattered windshield. Evelyn's knuckles were white on the wheel, the band of dried blood across her sleeve tugging every time she turned. In the rear view, Jonathan held Lily close, his voice a hush of comfort against the rattle of tires over potholes. You're bleeding, he said, finally, as they hit the ramp toward the lakeside underpass. I've noticed, Evelyn murmured. Seatbelt's going to stain. Sorry about your upholstery. It's a stash car, he said. Is it safe? For now. She cut the wheel, slid the sedan into the shadow of a derelict building, and killed the engine. The hum of the city receded, replaced by a thin hiss of wind through broken vent slats. We do the next part old school. Lily peered over her father's arm. Are we hiding? We're winning at hide and seek, Evelyn said, twisting in her seat. And you're already good at it. The little girl nodded solemnly and hugged the old bear tighter. Evelyn popped the glove compartment, pulled a battered medkit, and breathed out through her nose. Prescott, front seat. Lily, eyes on me. Good. We're going to make the sting go away in 10 seconds. Jonathan slid up beside her. He smelled of office cologne and adrenaline. Up close, the bruise on his temple looked worse. He saw her shoulder and flinched. That's a deep gash. It's a loud gash, she corrected. Clean, compress, wrap. Hold this. He took the gauze. Evelyn tore open an alcohol pad with her teeth and pressed it to the wound. Fire lanced from bone to fingertips. Her lips thinned. She didn't make a sound. Jonathan's jaw tightened. You've done this before. On a road dirtier than this and with worse company. She nodded toward a small plastic vial. Pour. He did. She hissed, then steadied. The car smelled like metal and antiseptic. Somewhere above them, a siren grew louder, then faded. When she finished taping the dressing, she tested her range of motion, rotating the shoulder an inch at a time. Functional. You should be in a hospital. And you should be reading bedtime stories, she said. Reality's not taking suggestions tonight. Lily's voice was small. Is my daddy going to be okay? Evelyn met her eyes. He will be, because you were brave. She offered a pinky. Lily wrapped hers around it, firm as a promise. Contract signed. Jonathan exhaled. Who were they? Those men. Not freelancers. Suppressed pistol, decent jammers. That's budget and training. Your boardroom doesn't hire muggers. My board? He looked stunned. Then something like denial flickered and broke. Fiona's been pushing me to authorize access to legacy archives, our government contract repository. I stalled. Then they shoved, Evelyn said. And they used your daughter as leverage because they thought you'd break. They were wrong. Who are you? He asked again, softer. Evelyn opened the center console, retrieved a cheap prepaid phone, snapped the battery out, then slid the SIM under the floor mat with 2 fingers. I mop floors, she said. That's what they see. I keep it that way because it gives me exits. That's not an answer. She stared past him at the black mouth of the underpass, the wind dragging wrappers across the asphalt. There's a time for answers and a time for survival. Right now, she checked her watch, we survive. He swallowed. Where are we going? Somewhere without cameras. She glanced at Lily. And without men who yell in suits. Lily's mouth twitched, the ghost of a smile. They waited 5 minutes. 10. Evelyn used the quiet to study reflections in the rearview. A delivery truck lumbering past. A cyclist with a blinking red taillight. An empty police cruiser cruising slowly, uninterested. On her wrist, an old compass ticked a lazy circle as a draft slipped through the underpass. Evelyn started the car and eased out. She drove like a woman who had memorized every blind curve in the city and every camera mounted near it. She took alleys between restaurants, cut behind a row of dumpsters, coasted through a red light on a dead street at 2 miles per hour, then merged with the late traffic. When she finally turned her headlights on, it felt like surfacing. Jonathan watched her hands. You were military. Was, she said. Special? He sounded like he wasn't sure if the word was a compliment or a warning. Special enough, she said. Long ago. He waited. When she didn't elaborate, he tried a different angle. The code you used on that side door, that wasn't a janitor code. Evelyn's heavy shoulders rose and fell. Some doors don't open for people who look like me. I learned to carry keys. They drove in silence for a time. The city peeled away. Fewer glass towers, more warehouses and chain-link fences. Then the dark bones of the industrial fringe. Evelyn killed the radio when an ad chirped too brightly. The only music left was the thrum of tires and the whisper of Lily's bear brushing the seat. My wife died last year, Jonathan said suddenly. Car accident. Lily stopped speaking for a while. He didn't know why he was telling the stranger in the front seat any of it. But the night had already taken everything else. I thought I could protect her by building walls. Lawyers, guards, business. That hallway. He trailed off. Walls are invitations, Evelyn said. They tell wolves where the herd sleeps. He let that settle. Where do you sleep? Where wolves get bored, she said. A beat, then a softer addendum. Where my neighbors don't ask for sugar or names. Lily stirred. Can we go home now? We're on the way to one, Evelyn said. Not yours. A different kind. It creaks. It smells like old wood. And its best feature is nobody knows it exists. That okay? Lily nodded, eyelids drooping. Home, Jonathan echoed. What do I tell? What do I even say to her when this is over? The truth, Evelyn said. Kids smell lies like smoke. Keep it out of her lungs. They crossed a bridge where black water flashed like oil. A train clattered in the distance. Evelyn checked the mirrors again. 2 miles, then gravel. Gravel? You'll see. She brushed the turn signal, an unnecessary courtesy when the road ahead was empty. When we get there, I'll need quiet for 10 minutes. You can keep her awake? Shock likes to wear a friendly face. He nodded. I can. She gave him a look that wasn't unkind. You will. They left the last streetlight behind and entered a corridor of trees. Branches arched overhead, scraping the roof in a scratchy percussion. The road narrowed, then split. Evelyn chose the darker option without slowing. The sedan suspension groaned as it left asphalt for a rutted track. Evelyn. She heard her name in his mouth for the first time, and kept her eyes on the tunnel of shadows ahead. Why did you help us? She considered lying, deflecting with a joke, throwing up the wall she'd perfected. Instead, she gave him a piece of the truth she could afford. Because nobody helped my family when we needed it. And because she asked. She nodded toward the rear seat. Sometimes that's enough. Your family, he began, then stopped as if he'd tripped a wire. Don't apologize for a question you didn't ask, she said. Asking's free. Answers cost. Moonlight broke through the canopy in a pale coin, and for a second, Evelyn's face was etched in silver, a thick scar grazing the line of her collarbone, eyes that had seen desert sun and winter fog, and men who lied prettily into cameras. Her jaw was set in a way that said she expected disappointment and met it anyway. The track ended at a pair of crooked posts that pretended to be a gate. Evelyn slid the car between them and rolled on until the trees fell away to reveal the hulking shape of an old ranger cabin, boards weathered, porch leaning, a chimney patched with mismatched brick. It looked abandoned from every angle that mattered. Lily lifted her head. Is this it? This is it, Evelyn said. No reception, no neighbors, no welcome mat. Perfect. She parked behind a leaning shed, nosed the car under a tarp strung between 2 trunks and shut everything down. Lights, radio, even the dashboard glow. For a few seconds, the dark was total. Then her phone lit once with a dim, red-filtered flashlight, learned from a time when white light meant death. They moved in a choreography that felt older than fear. Jonathan followed her steps. Lily followed his. The cabin door protested with a long groan. Evelyn's shoulder protested louder. She ignored both. Inside, the air was cold and clean, with the dry comfort of a place that remembered winter without resenting it. Shapes congealed out of dark. A sofa with a blanket folded with military corners. A table with a chipped enamel mug. A small iron stove squatting in the corner like a stubborn animal. Evelyn set the flashlight on the table, lens down, so the light puddled without shining into the windows. Boots off, she said. Not for my floors. for sound. They complied. Lily stood on one foot, wobbling, until Evelyn crouched and helped with the laces. "Strong knot," she said. "You tie your own?" Lily nodded, pride slipping through her fatigue. "Good skill," Evelyn said, and there was a warmth in her that hadn't been there in the hallway. She crossed to a shelf and pulled a metal box, old ammo tin repurposed, popped the latch, and took out a small wrapped bundle. "Battery pack, burner, bandages, boring stuff," she said. "The exciting stuff stays hidden." Jonathan managed a ghost of a smile. "That what we call guns now?" "That what we call trouble," she said. "I keep two kinds. The kind I plan for, and the kind I pray I never see again." He exhaled, then flinched as a small chime sounded from somewhere near the ceiling. He looked up. "What's that?" "Barometer," Evelyn said. "Storm's turning. Weather loves an ambush." He caught her eye. "Do you ever stop talking in riddles?" "When nobody's hunting me, I get downright chatty." Lily yawned, a perfect O. The bear drooped in her grip. "Go on," Evelyn said. "Couch is friendlier than it looks. You can be brave again in the morning." Lily looked at her father for permission. He smoothed her hair. "We'll be right here." The girl curled under the blanket and was asleep before the fabric settled. Jonathan watched her chest rise and fall, the tiny rhythm anchoring him to something that wasn't confusion or pain. He turned back to Evelyn. "Thank you." "Don't spend thank yous you may need later," she said. "They're a currency." "And what do you spend?" "Time," she said. "It's cheaper until you run out." He looked around. "How long have you had this place?" "Long enough to trust its silences." "And you mapped that tunnel you mentioned?" He remembered her words in the car, a casual mention she delivered like a weather report. She nodded at the floor. "Trap door under that rug. Old storm shelter. Tunnel to a dry creek bed. It kept a family alive once. Might keep us breathing if, when, company drops by." "You think they'll find us?" "Assume pursuit," she said. "Hope for incompetence." He leaned against the table, the adrenaline that had held him together beginning to drain away. "I can't believe this is my life. Yesterday I argued about a product launch. Today He gestured at the room, at the sleeping child, at this stranger guardian who had pulled him through fire by sheer will. "I don't know who to trust." "You trust patterns," she said, "not people. People change. Patterns try not to. Who profits if you sign that transfer? Who stops losing if you die? That's pattern." He rubbed his forehead. "Fiona has motive. So do two others. But this feels bigger than money." "It is," she said. "Power is just money with better PR." He laughed, a brittle sound. "For you always like this?" "I used to be worse." A minute ticked. Another. The cabin settled around them, wood popping as it remembered the day's heat and forgot it again. In the quiet, Jonathan found a question he didn't want, but couldn't ignore. "You said nobody helped your family." Evelyn's gaze settled somewhere he couldn't see. "My sister worked on stories the wrong men wanted quiet. One of them found her car instead of her byline. There was a child in the back seat." She paused. "I keep a bear in my go-kits for a reason." "I'm sorry." "You keep saying that tonight," she said, not unkindly. "Save it for someone who drops a bomb and calls it a favor." He studied her profile, broad, strong, lined with fatigue and a stubborn dignity that didn't ask to be admired. "They called you fat in that room. They were correct and uncreative, she said. Both can be true. It didn't slow you down. It slows me down when I choose to stop, she said. Tonight wasn't that night. From outside, a gust rattled the shutters. Somewhere far off, a fox screamed, the sound threading the night like a bent violin string. Evelyn tilted her head, listening, then relaxed. Nature arguing with itself, she said. We're fine. He nodded, and for the first time since he'd felt zip ties bite his wrists, he believed someone who said those words. What happens next? He asked. Next, she said. You sleep 2 hours on that chair. I watch. Then we trade. At dawn, you talk. You tell me everything you didn't put in emails because you thought you were being careful. And you? I break one of my rules. Which one? I plug a mystery into a machine, she said, tapping the metal tin. I prefer paper and patience. But if you're sitting on a live wire, I want to know how much current we're bleeding. He frowned. What wire? Evelyn nodded toward Lily's backpack on the floor, half hidden beneath the couch. The assistant who couldn't find your daughter when the screaming started? Men like that stash things where the brave little girl won't get frisked. Jonathan stared at the bag as if it might grow teeth. I think we should look when she's awake, Evelyn said softly. For now, she sleeps with her bear and not with a secret she didn't ask to carry. He let out a breath he didn't know he held. Okay. Evelyn poured water from a dusty jug into a cup, handed it to him. Drink, or your head will hum like bad wiring. He drank. The water was cold and tasted faintly of tin and pine. When he finished, he set the cup down with a clink that sounded too loud. 2 hours, she said. Close your eyes. He did, eventually. The chair wasn't comfortable, but exhaustion could make a stone into a pillow. He listened to the clockless rhythm of night and to the footfalls of a woman who moved quietly for someone her size. A ghost, with weight and purpose. Evelyn checked the windows, the door, the trapdoor, then returned to the table and lowered herself into the second chair. The wood complained. She didn't. She opened the ammo tin, took out a tiny wrapped device no bigger than a coin, rolled it between her fingers, and put it back with care. Her eyes drifted to the couch. The girl's small hand clutched the bear's ear, knuckles pale. Evelyn's shoulder throbbed. She pressed her palm to the bandage, counted to 10, and let the pain recede like a tide. In the far corner, the old stove ticked as it cooled, a patient metronome for a night that had forgotten its music. Her phone, older than fashion and smarter than it looked, vibrated once, silent. A single-bar signal ghosted through the trees and died. The message header flashed briefly before it lost purchase. Unknown network error. Tomorrow, she whispered to the dark. You can try me tomorrow. She reached into her pocket and brought out a folded scrap of paper. A sketch in pencil, quick and sure. A little girl holding a bear, drawn with a hand steadier than her own was now. She looked at it for a long moment, then slid it back, tucked behind her ID badge that said Janitor in black letters that were true and not true at all. Outside, the clouds shifted. A sliver of moonlight fell across the cabin table like a blade. Dawn would ask for blood and answers. Tonight allowed bones and breath. Evelyn watched the door breathe in and out with the draft, and kept her eyes open until the dark grew thin. Dawn crept into the cabin like a shy intruder. Pale light leaking through cracks in the boards, dust motes swirling in the still air. The smell of cold coffee and wood smoke hung heavy. Evelyn sat at the table, still awake, one hand wrapped around a half-empty mug, the other pressed to her shoulder where the gauze had gone from white to brown. Her eyes were open, but quiet, the kind of eyes that had learned to rest without closing. The first sound was Lily's whisper, "Daddy?" A small, uncertain voice in a world too big. Jonathan stirred in the chair, groaning softly, his body remembering the night before his mind caught up. When it did, panic flashed across his face until he saw Evelyn by the window, calm, watchful. Lily sat up on the couch, hair tangled, bear clutched tight. For a moment, she didn't look scared, just curious. "Morning," Evelyn said, her voice gravelly from fatigue. "Don't move too fast, sugar. The world's still deciding if it wants to behave." Lily blinked at her, then at her father. "Are the bad men gone?" "For now," Jonathan said softly. He crossed to her and knelt, brushing the hair from her forehead. "We're safe." Evelyn didn't echo the word. She didn't believe in safe. She believed in for now. She stood slowly, her joints cracking, and walked to the stove. "I've got oatmeal and a kettle that doesn't complain," she said. "No cereal boxes here, Princess. You good with something that sticks to your ribs?" Lily nodded solemnly. Evelyn smiled faintly. "Then we're all set." Jonathan watched her move, deliberate, steady, even with the injury. He saw the way her hand trembled slightly when she lifted the pot, the wince she tried to hide when she stirred. "You should let me—" "Don't," she said without turning. "I'm not good at letting anyone do things for me. It confuses the system." "You mean control?" "I mean survival." She ladled the oatmeal into 3 chipped bowls, added sugar from a small tin, and set them down. Lily giggled softly when Evelyn blew across her spoon to cool it. It was the first laughter the room had heard in hours, maybe days. Evelyn looked at her and something in her eyes softened, almost cracked. "Eat up," she said. "You'll need your strength." "For what?" Lily asked. "To keep being brave," Evelyn said. Jonathan ate quietly, his mind working even faster than his heartbeat. He couldn't shake the memory of the gun pressed to his face, the voices demanding signatures, the fear that had carved itself into his daughter's eyes. None of it made sense. His company was big, yes, but not the kind of empire that sparked armed coups. Unless... "Evelyn," he said finally, "what you said last night about my board, you think this is an internal hit?" "I think you're asking questions you already know the answers to," she replied. "I've built this company from the ground up," he said, his voice low, tight. "I know every partner, every investor. If someone wanted me dead, I'd see it coming." "Would you?" she said, eyes narrowing. "You spend your days on top floors with people who smile for a living. They don't need guns. They hire people who already have them." Jonathan swallowed hard. "Fiona," he said again. "She's been pushing for access to something I locked down years ago. A set of encrypted archives tied to defense contracts. I never opened them. My father started those projects before he died." Evelyn stirred her oatmeal slowly. "Old ghosts like to come home, Prescott. Maybe they're tired of waiting." He frowned. "You keep saying my name like you already knew it." "Hard not to when it's printed on every door in that damn building," she said. "Besides, you're not hard to read. You talk like a man who's always been obeyed." "You talk like someone who's done the opposite." "That's how I got to keep talking." He studied her, the scar at her collarbone, the faded tattoo on her wrist just visible under the sleeve, the weight in her stance. What branch? She didn't look at him. Doesn't matter. They retired me before I was ready to retire myself. Because? She finally met his eyes because I stopped taking orders I couldn't live with. There was no drama in her tone, no need for pity, just fact. Jonathan nodded slowly, understanding that she wasn't going to give him more. Not yet. Lily finished her bowl and leaned her chin on the table. Miss Evelyn? Yeah, baby? You sound like my teacher when she's mad. Evelyn smiled. That's because I am mad. At the world, mostly. But I'm working on it. Lily giggled again. Jonathan almost smiled, too, until he saw the backpack near the couch. The same one Evelyn had mentioned last night. Her eyes followed his. Go ahead, she said. Check it. He hesitated. You think? I think men like the one who gave that to her don't hide snacks. He picked it up carefully, unzipped the front pocket, then the side. Nothing. In the main compartment, crayons, a notebook, the bear's missing bow, a small lunchbox. Then, at the very bottom, he felt something hard taped under the lining. His heart skipped. He tore it open. A small black USB drive, no larger than a finger, wrapped in a square of duct tape. On the metal casing, engraved faintly, a symbol, a red phoenix. Evelyn's breath hitched. That's not corporate, she said quietly. That's government. Jonathan stared at it. Government? What the hell does... Put it down, she said sharply. What? Why? Because I've seen that mark before, and the last time I did, people vanished. He looked at her. Where? Her voice was a whisper now. Syria, 2013. Operation Phoenix Protocol. He blinked. What is that? A project that doesn't officially exist, she said. They shut it down, or said they did. But if it's here, she nodded toward the drive, then someone reactivated it. And if your board is tied to that, they're not after your money, Prescott. They're after control. Control of what? She stared at him. Whatever this thing opens. Jonathan looked down at the drive in his shaking hand. So what do we do? Evelyn reached across the table and took it from him carefully, wrapping it back in the duct tape. We open it where no one can trace us. You can do that? She gave a grim smile. I've opened worse. She stood, went to the shelf, and pulled down an old laptop. Thick, scratched, stickers peeling off. This thing isn't connected to the grid. No Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no cloud sync. You want to poke the devil? You do it offline. Jonathan hovered behind her. What are you expecting to find? Something that shouldn't be in your daughter's backpack. She inserted the drive. The screen flickered. Black background, single blinking cursor. Then a line of text appeared. Access denied. Clearance required. Phoenix Protocol. Evelyn froze. The words pulled her years backward. To sand. Gunfire. The sound of a helicopter blade and the echo of her own name shouted over radio static. She remembered the fire, the orders, the cover-up, the lie. Evelyn? Jonathan's voice pulled her back. What does that mean? It means someone's about to trace us. The laptop beeped. A new message flashed across the screen. Unpionacity access detected. Trace initiated. Damn it! Evelyn yanked the drive out instantly, killing the connection. We're compromised. Jonathan looked around wildly. How long until... Minutes, she said. Grab the girl. We're moving. He obeyed without hesitation, scooping Lily into his arms as Evelyn snatched the laptop and the drive. She darted to the rug and flipped it aside, revealing the trapdoor she'd mentioned the night before. She yanked it open, the hinges squealing, revealing a narrow wooden ladder descending into darkness. This way, she said. Now. Jonathan climbed down first, clutching his daughter tight. Evelyn followed, pulling the trapdoor shut above them. Darkness swallowed them whole. She switched on her flashlight, the red beam cutting through dust. Storm shelter, she said. Leads to the creek bed. Move fast, but quiet. From above they heard it. The low, steady thump of rotors. Helicopter. Then the crunch of boots on gravel. Voices muffled by distance but growing louder. Jonathan's breath hitched. They're here. Evelyn's tone was calm, focused. They'll burn the cabin. Standard protocol. No witnesses, no trace. Burn it? But the files? Files don't scream, she said coldly. People do. They crawled through the tunnel, the air damp and cold, dirt brushing their shoulders. Lily whimpered once, and Evelyn reached out blindly, squeezing her hand. Quiet game, she whispered. You win if they don't hear you. Lily nodded, trembling but silent. Behind them, a faint roar began to grow, the unmistakable sound of fire. The crackle of wood surrendering to flame. The tunnel glowed faintly orange as light seeped through the cracks in the earth above. When they emerged, the world was smoke and chaos. The cabin burned in the distance, flames clawing at the sky. Evelyn turned back once, watching everything she'd built, her refuge, her silence, vanish into heat and ash. Jonathan followed her gaze. I'm sorry, he said again, uselessly. Evelyn shook her head. Don't be. Everything I had burned a long time ago. She turned away, her jaw set, her silhouette framed against the rising fire. We keep moving, she said. They think we're dead. That's our advantage. Jonathan nodded, clutching Lily closer. Where do we go? Evelyn looked toward the endless line of trees and the pale morning beyond them. To the only person I still trust, she said. And if she's still alive, she'll have the answers we need. Who is she? Evelyn's expression didn't change. An old ghost named Cassandra Lowe. And she owes me her life. She started walking, boots crunching over the frost, the child's small footsteps following beside her. And behind them the fire raged. The first signal in a war none of them yet understood. The forest was still half asleep when they began to move. The morning mist clung to the trees like old memory, each step muffled by damp leaves. Evelyn led the way, her limp subtle but there, the pain in her shoulder pulsing with each movement. Behind her, Jonathan carried Lily, the child's head resting on his chest, the old bear between them like a fragile piece of peace they were all trying to protect. How far? Jonathan asked, his voice low. 6 miles, Evelyn said, not looking back. Maybe less if the trail's still clear. And this, Cassandra, he said carefully. You trust her? I trust what we've bled through, she replied. That's different from friendship. He frowned. You were in the same unit? Same mission, Evelyn said. Different ghosts. The trail narrowed into a ravine, the ground soft with old rain. Evelyn moved like she'd walked this path 100 times, because she had. It was one of her escape lines, built long before she met Jonathan Prescott, back when she still believed she could outrun what she'd done. By noon, the sky was a thin gray sheet. They reached an old ranger station, 2 stories, boarded windows, a crooked satellite dish rusted beyond use. Ivy crawled up one side. To anyone passing, it looked abandoned. But to Evelyn, it looked like survival. She scanned the perimeter, then motioned for them to wait. She slipped inside first, pistol raised, checking corners, shadows, rafters. Silence. Only the groan of old wood. When she was satisfied, she called out, "Clear." Jonathan stepped in, setting Lily gently on an old cot. The girl blinked awake, eyes wide but unafraid. Evelyn closed the door and wedged a chair under the handle. Jonathan looked around. "This place is yours?" "Belonged to the government once," she said. "Then it belonged to no one. I just kept the lights off long enough for it to stop asking who pays the bills." He managed a tired laugh, but his nerves betrayed him. He couldn't shake the image of fire swallowing the cabin, the way the flames licked the night like it was paper. Evelyn opened a cabinet, revealing a small black case marked with faded military codes. Inside, a field radio, a solar-powered transmitter, a map, and a folder of handwritten frequency codes. "If she's alive," Evelyn murmured, "she'll answer this line." "Who?" "Cass," Evelyn said. "Ghosts don't use phones." She connected the transmitter, flicked a switch, and began tapping a pattern in Morse. A long pause, then static. She waited. Another tap, longer this time. She repeated the code, slower, then stopped. "Now we wait," she said. "How long?" 4 hours, she said, sitting heavily in the chair. "That's if the universe remembers to cooperate." Jonathan sat across from her, Lily curled under a blanket, the bear tucked beneath her chin. The silence between them stretched like wire, tense but unbroken. Finally, he asked, "What is Phoenix, Evelyn?" Her gaze didn't move from the transmitter. "You wouldn't believe me. Try me." She sighed. Phoenix was supposed to be a deniable operations unit. They called it a retrieval and neutralization program. What that meant was we erased people, journalists, whistleblowers, defectors, anyone too dangerous to leave breathing, but too visible to kill cleanly. We called it balance, justice in the shadows. Jonathan felt a chill crawl up his spine. "You worked for that?" "I patched the wounds," she said. "Sometimes I caused them." Everyone tells themselves they're on the right side, until they run out of lies. "And now it's back," he said quietly. Her jaw tightened. "Looks that way." The transmitter clicked once. Evelyn straightened. Then again, 3 short pulses. She leaned forward, her eyes sharpening. "That's her." The radio crackled softly. Then a female voice came through, low, cautious, carrying years of paranoia. "Eve? That you?" Evelyn smiled slightly. "Hey, Ghost. A long pause.
You're supposed to be dead.
So are you, Evelyn said. The laugh that came through the static was dry, rough, but real. You always did ruin a funeral. What the hell's going on? I've got a billionaire, his kid, and a flash drive with the Phoenix mark, Evelyn said. Silence. Then, you just kicked a hornet's nest wrapped in napalm. Where are you? Hudson Trail Station. Stay there, the voice said. I'll be there by nightfall. Don't move, don't call anyone, and for God's sake, don't plug that drive back in. The line went dead. Jonathan exhaled. That's her? She sounded like a ghost, Evelyn said. Told you. Can we trust her? She saved my life once, Evelyn said simply. I saved hers twice. That's about as close to love as it gets in our world. The afternoon dragged. Evelyn patched her wound properly this time, using supplies Cass had taught her to stash. Jonathan helped, clumsily but determined. Their hands brushed once. Neither mentioned it. By dusk, the wind had shifted. The air carried the scent of rain and diesel, a combination Evelyn didn't like. She stood near the window watching the tree line. She'll come from the north, she said quietly. Jonathan sat with Lily, reading softly from a children's book he'd found in the drawer. His voice trembled once, then steadied. Evelyn pretended not to hear the crack in it. At 8:14 p.m., a faint whistle echoed from outside. 3 rising notes, 1 long fall. Evelyn smiled faintly. That's Cass. She opened the door. From the shadow stepped a woman in her late 40s, tall, lean, hair streaked with silver, eyes that scanned every corner before she stepped inside. She carried no gun visible, but she moved like she didn't need one. Damn, Eve, she said. When you call, it's never for coffee. Good to see you too, Evelyn said. Cass's gaze shifted to Jonathan, then to the sleeping child. So this is the circus. This is the reason, Evelyn said. And the storm. Cass nodded. Let's see what kind of hell you dragged through my door. Evelyn handed her the drive. Cass studied it, lips tightening. That mark. It's real. I told you. You know what it means if this got out, Cass said. It's not just black ops, it's domestic. They're killing their own. Jonathan stepped forward. My company. My board. They're behind it? Cass met his eyes. They're part of it. Your servers host the data pipeline for half the government's private contracts. If Phoenix was reactivated, it's using your infrastructure. Jonathan's stomach turned. So they tried to kill me because you were about to look inside, Cass said, and because someone wants the world quiet again. Evelyn leaned forward. Can you open it safely? Cass nodded slowly. Not here. I've got a dark rig, no uplink, no trace. But once we peek, we can't unsee it. Do it, Evelyn said. Cass plugged the drive into her laptop. Lines of code flickered, encryptions peeling like skin. Then, a single folder appeared. Phoenix Archive. Cass opened it. Thousands of files. Mission logs, authorizations, financial transfers, images. Her eyes widened. Jesus, Eve, she whispered. This is worse than before. These aren't foreign hits, they're domestic. Jonathan leaned closer. Explain. These are kill orders, Cass said. Journalists, senators, activists, even company CEOs, all signed off by corporate authorizations. Your companies. Operation Codename Marionette. Jonathan's face drained of color. Marionette? Cass nodded. Someone's pulling strings. And from what I'm seeing, they've been doing it for years. Evelyn crossed her arms. Names? Cass scrolled. Fiona Langley, Mason Worth, Kenneth Straw, Evelyn Rowe, all board members, each with Phoenix-level clearance. Jonathan's voice was barely a whisper. That's the inner circle. Evelyn's jaw clenched. Then we start cutting strings. Cass looked up. You sure you're ready to go back to war? Evelyn's eyes were steady.
I never left.
Outside, thunder rolled over the trees, a slow, distant growl, the sound of a storm finding its way home. Jonathan stared at the screen full of names. People he'd trusted, people who'd toasted him, smiled in his boardroom, kissed his daughter's forehead at charity dinners. Now they were architects of murder. What do we do? He asked finally. Cass looked at Evelyn. Evelyn looked at the fire dying in the stove. We do what they never expect, she said. We go back to where it started. Jonathan blinked. The company? Evelyn nodded. They built their war inside your walls. Now we walk in and burn it from within. The next morning broke heavy and gray, the kind of sky that promised rain and trouble. Evelyn stood in front of the ranger station's cracked mirror, her reflection ghosted by scratches. She pulled her braids back tight, tied them low, then shrugged into a dark blazer that hid her shoulder wound almost perfectly. She looked like what she used to hunt, professional, untouchable, silent. Cass stood behind her, double-checking the weapon holsters hidden beneath her clothes. You sure you can move with that arm? Cass asked. Evelyn smirked. I've moved with worse. Pain just keeps the rhythm. Cass raised a brow. And the billionaire? He's nervous, Evelyn said. Good. Fear keeps him obedient. Outside, Jonathan waited by the car, wearing a pressed navy suit and the tight, pale look of a man about to walk into his own funeral. Lily wasn't with him. Cass had already arranged for her to be hidden in a secure cabin upstate. It had taken every ounce of his resolve to hand her over. When the car door opened, he looked up, voice flat. She cried when I left. She's alive, Evelyn said. That's what matters. Cass climbed into the driver's seat. Once we're in the building, no second chances. You follow the plan, Prescott. Smile at the devils. Shake their hands. Act like you don't know they built the pit you're standing in. Jonathan nodded, tightening his tie. And if they already know? Evelyn checked the safety on her gun. Then they'll see what happens when a janitor stops sweeping and starts cleaning house. The SUV rolled through the sleeping outskirts of Chicago. By the time they reached the Prescott Holdings Tower, the city was awake. Traffic humming, drones slicing through morning fog, digital billboards blinking stock prices and propaganda. The skyscraper loomed like a blade of glass stabbing the clouds. Cass parked 2 blocks away. You go in first, she said to Jonathan. Act normal. Smile at security. Take the elevator straight to 38. Eve, you're his new executive protection. Registered this morning under a false corporate ID. Your background check will read like gospel. Evelyn nodded, slipping on a thin earpiece. And you? I'll be in the server core, hijacking their communications tunnel. 10 minutes after you're inside, the system will think it's talking to itself. Jonathan's hand shook as he reached for the door. Evelyn caught his wrist, firm, grounding. Breathe, she said quietly. You've faced worse than a boardroom. He gave a strained smile. No, I haven't. They entered through the underground garage. Security guards at the checkpoint glanced at Jonathan's ID, scanned his face, and waved him through without a word. The same system that wanted him dead still recognized him as king. Evelyn followed 2 steps behind, eyes moving constantly. Mirrors, cameras, doorways. Every reflection felt like a threat. The elevator ride was silent except for the steady drone of the cables. Jonathan's reflection trembled in the polished metal. Evelyn's didn't. When the doors opened onto the executive floor, everything looked the same. Frosted glass walls, marble floors, the faint smell of orchids and money. But now, every face felt different. Too careful, too polite. Fiona Langley was there, of course. Always early, always immaculate. Her blonde hair pulled tight, her smile precise. She was speaking to 2 other board members when she saw Jonathan. For a fraction of a second, surprise cracked her mask. Then she smiled. "Jonathan," she said, gliding toward him. "You're early. I heard you were out of town." "Just came back," he said evenly. "Thought I'd surprise everyone." Her eyes flicked to Evelyn. "And your new shadow?" "Private security," he said. "After the break-in at my lake house, I decided to upgrade." "Of course." Fiona's gaze lingered on Evelyn, an assessing look that dripped with condescension. "I hope the company's paying you well." Evelyn smiled without warmth. "Depends on who's still signing the checks." For a brief second, Fiona's eyes narrowed. Then she laughed, light and charming. "Well, I'm glad to see you're keeping things tight, Jonathan. The investors are nervous. You disappearing didn't help." "Disappearing?" he echoed, feigning confusion. "Just a quick trip to review one of our data centers. Maybe next time I'll send a postcard." She tilted her head. "Please do." When she walked away, Evelyn leaned close to him and murmured, "She's rattled. That's good. Fear makes people sloppy." He swallowed. "It's making me sloppy." "Then borrow mine," she said. "I've got enough to spare." They entered his office, a cathedral of glass overlooking the city. The place was spotless. Too spotless. Evelyn swept it with her eyes. "They've been in here," she said. "Files on the desk changed. Coffee rings fresh. They searched you." Jonathan frowned. "For what?" "Probably for the drive," she said. "Which means they didn't find it. Which means they're still looking." She crossed to his computer terminal, pulled a small tablet from her jacket, and connected it via a hidden cable. Lines of code filled the screen. Cass's voice came through the earpiece, low and focused. "I'm in their system. Channels live. Fiona's already sending encrypted messages to someone under the alias K1. She's using an old protocol, outdated but fast. I'm decoding now." Evelyn's fingers danced on the tablet. "Talk to me." Message header reads, "Subject returned. Initiate contingency," and Cass's voice paused. "There's a line here. Kestrel authorizes silent extraction." Jonathan froze. "Silent extraction? That means—" "They plan to make your death look natural," Evelyn said quietly. "Heart attack, suicide, take your pick." Cass's voice sharpened. "You've got one scheduled meeting today, 12:30, Sublevel 3, board luncheon. It's not on the corporate calendar. No catering orders, no staff. That's your trap." Jonathan's throat went dry. What do we do? Evelyn unplugged the tablet, slipped it back into her jacket, and met his gaze. We walk straight into it. He stared. You're insane. Probably, she said. But that's why it works. Cass cut in. Eve, Sub-Level 3 isn't even on their blueprints. It's an old secure floor, built during the DARPA contracts in the 90s. No cameras, no logs. If they take him down there, he vanishes. Then we vanish first, Evelyn said. 10 minutes later, they were in the elevator again. Jonathan's pulse thundered in his ears. Evelyn stood beside him, calm, breathing slow. She reached into her jacket and pressed a small device against the wall. A coin-sized black puck. EMP scrambler, she said. Kills internal trackers for 5 minutes. Once it's active, we're ghosts. The elevator shuddered, then began to descend. No buttons lit up, no floor indicators, just the hum of the cables. Built in 96, Jonathan murmured. My father said it was for government contracts. I thought he meant storage. He meant secrets, Evelyn said. Men like your father loved their hidden floors. The doors opened with a whisper. The hallway beyond was sterile. Steel walls, dim lights, no signs. A biometric scanner glowed red at the end. Jonathan hesitated, then pressed his palm against it. The light turned green. Inside, the room was colder, darker. A long black table surrounded by empty chairs, each with a built-in fingerprint reader. Screens on the far wall displayed encrypted feeds. Evelyn's instinct screamed. We're early, she said. That's good. We take what we need before they get here. She moved to the nearest console, connected her tablet again, and began siphoning data. Cass's voice returned. Got you on visual trace. 3 signatures approaching from the west stairwell. Fiona and 2 others. ETA 4 minutes. Evelyn moved fast. She pulled a small vapor pin from her pocket, a tiny metal capsule with a blinking light. This'll scramble motion sensors and heat scanners for 30 seconds, enough for us to disappear. Jonathan looked at her. Disappear where? She pointed at a narrow ventilation panel behind the projection screen. Maintenance shaft. Go. He climbed in first, heart pounding. Evelyn followed, pulling the grate back into place just as the door opened. From the darkness, they watched through the thin slits. Fiona entered first, her heels clicking like a metronome of arrogance. Behind her came Mason Worth, tall, silver hair, cold eyes. And Evelyn Rowe, head of finance, the kind of woman who could calculate murder in a spreadsheet. He's not in his office, Fiona said sharply, but his access card pinged the elevator. Worth adjusted his cufflinks. If he's snooping, we end this today. Rowe's voice was low, trembling slightly. Are you sure this is necessary? Fiona's reply cut like glass. He's already seen the files. Kestrel authorized contingency. We make it look clean. Jonathan clenched his fists. Evelyn put a hand on his arm, steady, warning. Rowe hesitated. And the daughter? Fiona didn't blink. We find her. We secure the asset, no loose ends. The vapor pin hissed. A faint red mist filled the room. An alarm blinked to life overhead. Motion breach. West wing. Damn it, Worth snapped. Seal the floor. They stormed out, heels and shoes echoing down the corridor. Evelyn waited 3 breaths, then opened the grate. Come on. They slipped out, sprinting through the maintenance tunnel. Cass's voice in their ears. Got everything. Full Phoenix dossier downloaded. You're clear for exfil. Meet me at the north garage. Jonathan's voice shook. We just walked through a death sentence. Correction, Evelyn said. We walked out of one. They reached the service elevator, hearts hammering. As the doors closed, Jonathan looked at her, at the blood seeping through her sleeve again, the calm in her face. You planned all this, he said. I planned to survive, she replied. The rest is improvisation. The elevator rose. Above them, a corporation built on murder kept shining, unaware that its ghosts were about to turn the lights off. The SUV hurtled down the interstate, tires eating asphalt, sky bruised and trembling with rain. Cass drove like she'd stolen the car, which she had. Evelyn sat shotgun, one hand pressed to her shoulder, the other clutching the laptop that now held the entire Phoenix archive. In the back seat, Jonathan stared out the window, face pale, fingers tapping against his knee in a steady, nervous rhythm. Talk to me, Evelyn said, voice low but firm. Cass didn't look up from the road. We've got everything. Mission reports, kill authorizations, account transfers, coordinates. Phoenix wasn't just a program, it was an economy. Meaning? Jonathan asked, his voice a whisper of disbelief. Meaning the people who ran it didn't care who lived or died, as long as it paid dividends, Cass said. Politicians, CEOs, private contractors. Your company was the laundromat for the money. Jonathan's chest tightened. And Marionette? Phase 2, Cass said. They started using Phoenix's infrastructure to manipulate markets, elections, even social media narratives. Control through silence. Evelyn watched the rain streak across the windshield like veins. So it's not just bodies, she said. It's truth. They kill that too. Cass gave a dry chuckle. Same thing, really. They drove in silence for a long time. Chicago's skyline blurred behind them, swallowed by the storm. Ahead, an old industrial district loomed. Warehouses, power lines, a concrete skeleton of the city's forgotten machinery. Cass took a hard turn, tires skidding on wet pavement, and stopped under a crumbling bridge. Here, she said. Off the grid. No cameras, no signals. We go live from here. Jonathan blinked. Go live? Evelyn turned to him. We leak it all. Now. Before they bury it again. His throat tightened. You mean, to the press? To everyone, Cass said. Public data dump. No filters, no spin. The only way to kill a lie is to let the whole world choke on the truth. Jonathan hesitated. If I go public, they'll come for you, Evelyn finished. But they already are. Cass popped the trunk, pulled out a portable satellite rig, and unfolded it on the concrete. Evelyn connected the laptop, her fingers steady despite the pain in her arm. The screen flared to life, casting blue light across their faces. Rain hammered the roof of the SUV, a rhythm that matched the pounding in Jonathan's chest. Last chance to back out, Cass said. Jonathan stared at the laptop, the folder marked Phoenix Archive, the thousands of names inside, the ghosts of people he'd never known, but who had died for his company's secrets. He saw Lily's face in the reflection, sleeping, safe. For now. Do it, he said. Evelyn nodded once. Then let's make noise. She hit upload. The signal bounced from the satellite to a dozen mirror servers Cass had prepared. Whistleblower forums, encrypted clouds, even dark web channels built for journalists who no longer trusted their editors. Within minutes, the files began spreading like wildfire. Cass watched the progress bar climb. They'll notice in 3 minutes. Evelyn smiled grimly. Then let's make those 3 minutes count. Jonathan sat back, staring as the data poured out of his machine and into the world. Each percentage tick felt like a heartbeat. When it hit 100%, Cass hit distribute. On screens across the world, new headlines began flashing. Breaking. Secret U.S. Black Ops program exposed. Phoenix. Leaked files tie corporate board to domestic assassinations. Operation Marionette. The billion-dollar machine behind the mask. Evelyn exhaled slowly. It's done. But Cass was already shaking her head. No. They're moving fast. They're trying to scrub it. How? Jonathan demanded. Firewalls, takedown bots, political pressure. But it's too late. Too many mirrors. Evelyn smirked. Can't kill what's already dead. Her earpiece crackled suddenly. Static, then a voice. Male, cold, calm. Cassandra Lowe. Evelyn Carter. Jonathan Prescott. You should have stayed in the dark. Cass's eyes widened. Trace signal. They're already here. Evelyn grabbed her gun. How many? 2 SUVs, maybe 3, Cass said, glancing at the radar feed on her tablet. They're coming in fast. Evelyn checked her clip. We can't fight them head on. Jonathan looked between them, panic rising. Then what do we do? Evelyn's gaze was steel. We don't fight. We vanish. She yanked the laptop cable free, grabbed the hard drive and shoved it into her pocket. Cass, kill the rig. Cass hit the kill switch. The satellite dish folded inward, lights dying. Out the back, Evelyn said. They ran. Rain lashed their faces, wind screaming through the underpass. Headlights appeared at the far end of the street, sharp, white, merciless. Cass ducked behind a concrete pillar, drawing her pistol. 2 on the left, 1 up high. Evelyn moved fast, her body heavy but precise, every step balanced between pain and fury. She signaled Jonathan toward the drainage tunnel. Go, take her. What about you? Go! He ran, stumbling through the mud. Cass covered him, her gun barking twice. 2 men went down, black-clad, silent, professional. A third returned fire. Bullets sparked off concrete, lighting up the dark like fireflies. Evelyn hit the first man low, sweeping his legs, then slammed the butt of her gun into his jaw. She fired once, clean, quiet. Cass ducked behind a pillar, reloaded, and shouted, They're flanking! Not for long, Evelyn growled. She pulled a smoke grenade from her belt, old military stock, and rolled it across the ground. A thick white cloud exploded, swallowing the bridge. Move! She yelled. Cass sprinted after Jonathan through the tunnel, Evelyn covering the rear. Her shoulders screamed, her lungs burned, but she didn't stop. Not now. Not when the truth was finally out. They emerged a mile downriver, soaked, filthy, alive. Cass bent double, gasping. Jonathan fell to his knees, hands trembling. Evelyn stood at the mouth of the tunnel, gun still in her hand, eyes scanning the horizon. They'll regroup, Cass said between breaths. We can't stay here. Evelyn nodded. We won't. Jonathan looked up, rain dripping from his hair. We did it, right? The world knows now? Evelyn's gaze didn't soften. Knowing isn't the same as believing, but it's a start. Cass checked her watch. They'll spin it as fake. Propaganda. Deepfakes. But people will dig. Once the truth's out, it never goes back in the box. Evelyn turned toward the city, distant and flickering like a dying circuit. Good, she said. Let them dig. The deeper they go, the more they'll find bones. Jonathan stood, still shaking but steadier now.
What happens next?
Evelyn holstered her weapon. Next, we make sure no one buries this again. Cass frowned. Meaning? Evelyn looked back at her, rain streaking her face, eyes lit with something dangerous. Meaning we stop running. It's time to hunt. Rain bled into the cracks of the city like ink into old paper. Chicago was awake, but different now. News trucks outside the Prescott Tower, reporters shouting into cameras, screens on street corners flashing headlines that changed faster than people could blink. Whistleblower CEO exposes secret assassination program. Government denies existence of Phoenix Protocol. Protests erupt in 4 cities. Evelyn Carter didn't look at any of it. She sat in a small windowless room inside Cass's safe house, a cold mug of coffee by her elbow, the laptop open before her. The hum of servers filled the silence like a pulse. She watched the torrent of mirrored files flood across the world. Thousands of downloads per minute, videos, logs, names. Truth, finally breathing after years underground. But the world wasn't grateful. The world was afraid. Cass stood by the wall of monitors, tapping her pen against the frame. Half the media's calling it a hoax, she said. The other half's calling it treason. Jonathan leaned forward from the couch, eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. It's real. They can't cover this up. They can't bury it, Cass corrected. But they can drown it in noise. They'll feed the public 20 different versions until nobody knows what's true anymore. Evelyn closed the laptop. Then we cut through the noise. Cass looked at her. How? By finding the one person they still answer to, Evelyn said. The ghost pulling their strings. Jonathan frowned. Kestrel. The name hung in the air like gunpowder. Cass crossed her arms. You saw the messages. He authorized every major hit. He's the spine of the operation. Take him out, the whole machine collapses. And where do we find him? Jonathan asked. Cass turned one of the monitors toward him. The screen showed a photo. A man in his late 50s, gray hair cropped short, blue eyes like ice. A scar running from temple to jaw. Elliot S. Marsh, former Deputy Director, CIA. Codename, Kestrel. Retired, Cass said. Officially. Evelyn stared at the image. No one that deep ever retires. Cass nodded. Last known location, private estate in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, off-grid. No online footprint. He's hiding. Or waiting. Jonathan stood. Then we go there. Cass raised a brow. You think it's that easy? I think, Evelyn said, standing too, it's the only move left. Cass sighed, resigned. You realize if we go after him, we stop being whistleblowers. We become executioners. Evelyn's expression didn't change. I've been called worse. The drive north was long and quiet. Gray skies gave way to sleet, then snow. The roads thinned, trees closing in like sentinels. Evelyn drove with one hand, her other arm strapped tight in a sling. Cass sat beside her, eyes on the GPS feed from her hacked satellite link. Jonathan was in the back seat, silent, lost in the fog of everything they'd unleashed. "He's been hiding for years," Cass said. "He knows people will come. This won't be easy." "Nothing worth finishing ever is," Evelyn said. Cass smirked. "You should put that on a t-shirt." Evelyn's mouth curved faintly. "I'd wear it to your funeral." By dusk they reached the estate. It sat at the edge of a frozen lake, surrounded by a tall metal fence and motion sensors disguised as birdhouses. No guards, no cars. Just silence. Cass pulled the SUV behind a ridge and cut the engine. "Thermal says 1 heat signature, basement level. He's home." Jonathan's breath caught. What if it's a trap? "It is," Evelyn said. "The question is, who it's for." They slipped through the fence using Cass's signal jammer, moving low under the pines. Snow crunched underfoot, each step measured. At the back of the house, Evelyn found a service door with a keypad lock. She cracked it in seconds. The door groaned open into darkness. Inside, the air smelled of old whiskey and gun oil. Cass swept the corners with her flashlight. Evelyn led them down a staircase lined with framed photographs. Presidents, generals. Operations no civilian should ever have seen. At the bottom, the basement opened into a wide study. Bookshelves, maps, a single desk with a dim lamp. Behind it sat a man. Elliot Marsh. He looked older than his photograph, but not weaker. His voice was low, calm, a predator's purr. "You made good time," he said. "I expected the janitor first." Evelyn didn't blink. "You're looking at her." He smiled faintly. "You're not what I imagined." "I get that a lot." Cass leveled her pistol. "Hands where we can see them." Marsh raised his hands slowly. "Easy, Agent Lowe. I know your file. Counterintelligence. 2 failed missions. 1 dead fiancé. You hide better than most." Cass's face hardened, but she didn't lower the gun. Marsh turned his gaze to Jonathan. "And the prodigal son returns. Your father would be proud. Or horrified. Depends how much he told you." Jonathan's voice trembled. "He told me nothing. You used his company to kill people." "No," Marsh said calmly. "I used it to preserve peace. We removed threats before they ignited wars. But you broke the system. You let the mob decide what justice looks like." "Justice?" Evelyn snapped. "You murdered civilians." "We created order," Marsh said. "The world doesn't run on morals, Miss Carter. It runs on control." "Then why hide?" Cass asked. "Why the safe house, the silence?" He looked at her with something almost like pity. "Because control is fragile. Once people see the truth, they stop believing the lie. And when they stop believing, men like me have nowhere left to stand." Evelyn stepped closer, gun steady. "Then sit." He smiled again, almost sadly. "You want a confession?" "We want the truth," Jonathan said. Marsh nodded slowly. "Then turn on your recorder." Cass hesitated, then pressed record on her tablet. Marsh looked straight into the lens. "My name is Elliot S. Marsh, former Deputy Director of Clandestine Operations. From 2011 to 2013, I oversaw Project Phoenix, a covert program targeting individuals deemed threats to national stability. We operated under direct authorization from corporate and federal channels. Prescott Holdings facilitated funding and data infrastructure. I signed 112 execution orders. 37 occurred on U.S. soil. Jonathan's stomach turned. Evelyn's finger tightened on the trigger. Marsh continued, voice steady. We believed we were saving the world, but we were only saving ourselves. And when the orders stopped making sense, we told ourselves they didn't need to. Silence. Cass stopped the recording. Evelyn stepped forward, handcuffs glinting. You're under citizen's arrest. Marsh didn't resist. You think this will change anything? He asked quietly. No, Evelyn said, but it'll start something. She cuffed him, reading him his rights out of habit. Cass bagged the recording and copied it to 3 encrypted drives. Jonathan stood frozen, unable to speak. When they finally stepped out of the house, the snow had stopped. The air was clean, the kind that hurt to breathe. Cass lit a cigarette she didn't intend to finish. Think the world's ready for another confession? She asked. Evelyn looked toward the frozen lake, the horizon turning blue with dawn. Ready or not, she said, it's getting one. By the next morning, every major network played the footage. Marsh's confession spread faster than even the Phoenix leak. Hashtags flooded every social platform. Governments denied, then stumbled, then went silent. The old world of shadows was burning. Not from fire, but from light. In the safe house, Jonathan stood by the window watching protests rise like waves through the streets. We did it, he whispered. Evelyn poured herself coffee, her face unreadable. No, we just tore the curtain. Now we see what's behind it. Cass nodded grimly. Because something still is. Evelyn turned, eyes narrowing. What do you mean? Cass held up her tablet. Intercepted chatter from what's left of Phoenix's network. They're moving funds, setting up something new. Codename, Noah. Evelyn exhaled slowly. Then the storm's not over. Jonathan's shoulders sagged. You mean it's starting again? No, Evelyn said, pouring another cup of coffee and handing it to him. It's evolving. And so are we. Snow fell over Washington like ash. A week had passed since Elliot Marsh's confession detonated across the world. A blast made of truth instead of TNT. Governments panicked, agencies fractured, and men who once ruled from shadows scrambled for daylight like rats from a burning nest. But Phoenix wasn't dead. Not yet. Evelyn Carter watched the chaos unfold on Cass's monitors, her expression stone. The world might finally have known the name Phoenix, but it still didn't understand what it was. Not a project, not a program, but a pattern. And patterns don't die easy. Cass leaned against the table, eyes flicking between data feeds. Chatter's gone dark. No more known servers, no active comms, but... She zoomed in on a coded message that pulsed faintly on her screen. A single phrase repeating through encrypted channels. Noah will rise. Jonathan frowned. Noah? What the hell is that? Cass crossed her arms. Maybe nothing. Or maybe the new Phoenix. Evelyn rubbed her temples, her shoulders still stiff but healing. Marsh was the face, Fiona Langley was the mind. If there's a Noah, she's behind it. She disappeared after the confession, Cass said. No border logs, no flight manifests. It's like she evaporated. Evelyn gave a bitter half-smile.
People like her don't evaporate. They relocate.
Jonathan stepped forward. You think she's starting it again? Evelyn looked up at the wall of screens. Riots, denials, world leaders pointing fingers. She's not starting it again. She's evolving it. By nightfall, they had a lead. Cass traced a financial ping, an old Prescott Holdings sub-account reactivated through a Swiss shell company. Location tag, Zurich. Figures, Cass muttered. When Americans want to hide sins, they go to church. When corporations want to hide money, they go to Switzerland. Evelyn zipped up her jacket. Then we're flying at dawn. Jonathan blinked. You mean we? Evelyn shot him a look. You're the face of this mess. You started the fire, now you finish it. Cass smirked. I already booked the flight, under new names. You're Mr. and Mrs. Waller honeymooning in Zurich. Try to smile, Eve. Evelyn rolled her eyes. I don't do smiling. I do surviving. Zurich, Switzerland. The air was knife cold, the snow too clean to feel real. The city gleamed with quiet efficiency, a perfect place to hide imperfection. Cass, Evelyn, and Jonathan stepped off the tram in front of a sleek banking tower marked Viznov International Holdings. Cass's tablet pinged. Confirmed. Fiona Langley's inside. Registered under alias Greta Vaughn. Evelyn's voice was low, controlled. Then this is her resurrection. Cass nodded. And Noah's cradle. They split up. Cass infiltrated through the service corridors with a microtransmitter. Jonathan walked through the main doors, suit pressed, face unreadable, like a man walking back into his empire. Evelyn entered from below, crawling through the maintenance ducts that fed into the tower's lower ventilation shafts. Her movements were slower now, heavier, but her precision was lethal. Every crawl, every breath measured. Fat, slow, invisible, she thought bitterly. The same words her commanders had once used behind her back. But tonight, invisibility was her weapon. In her earpiece, Cass's voice crackled softly. She's in the boardroom, top floor, meeting with Anatoly Viznov, Russian diplomat. 2 guards, ex-GRU. You've got 10 minutes before their sweep cycle resets. Evelyn whispered, Copy. Jonathan's voice came through, quiet but tense. If she sees me, she'll know. She already knows, Evelyn said. The question is, what she's waiting for. Evelyn crawled to a grate and looked down. Fiona Langley stood at the head of the table. The same composure, the same calculated smile. Across from her sat Anatoly Viznov, gray suit, silver cufflinks, the easy arrogance of men who'd never been told no. Once we destabilize the hearings, Fiona was saying, the media will tear itself apart over procedure. By the time they realize what's happening, the documents will be gone. Viznov leaned back. And the whistleblower? Discredited. His savior, too, Fiona said. By the time they connect the dots, Noah will already be online. Jonathan's voice hissed in Evelyn's ear. She's talking about me. Cass whispered, Eve, you're 30 meters above. I can breach from the elevator shaft. We go loud, grab both, extract. Evelyn's eyes stayed on Fiona. No, we go quiet. What? Cass asked. She wants attention. We give her something worse. Fear. Evelyn dropped silently from the vent. The impact was soft, her boots hitting carpet with a muted thud. Fiona's guards turned. Too late. The first went down with a clean strike to the throat. The second swung, but Evelyn's elbow crushed his jaw before he could scream. Both fell in silence. Fiona froze. "Still cleaning floors, Evelyn," she said, voice steady. "Still covering your mess," Evelyn replied. Cass burst through the stairwell door, gun raised. Viznov reached for a pistol. One shot from Cass and it flew from his hand. Jonathan stepped into the room, eyes locked on Fiona. "This ends now." Fiona laughed, calm, cold, cruel. "Ends? Oh, Jonathan."
You haven't even met the new beginning.
She tapped her watch. The wall screens behind her flickered to life. Code, images, maps. At the center, a single word, Noah. Cass stared. "Oh, hell." Evelyn stepped forward. "What is it?" Fiona smiled. "The next evolution of Phoenix. No soldiers, no leaks, no humanity. Just algorithms, self-learning, self-correcting. The perfect assassin doesn't pull a trigger. It decides who deserves one." Jonathan's blood ran cold. "You built an AI to kill?" "To predict," Fiona said. "To maintain order when people like you threaten it with chaos." Evelyn's voice dropped to a growl. "You learned nothing." Fiona's smile didn't falter. "On the contrary, I learned everything, even how this ends." She looked down, a tiny device blinking in her palm. Cass's eyes widened. "Eve!" Explosion. Glass shattered, smoke bloomed, alarms screamed. Evelyn shielded Jonathan, both crashing to the floor as fire burst through the far wall. Cass coughed through the haze. When the smoke cleared, Fiona and Viznov were gone. Evelyn stood slowly, ears ringing. Cass pulled her up. "You okay?" "I'm fine," Evelyn said, voice hoarse. "But she just declared war." Hours later, inside a safe house near the Swiss border, Cass replayed security footage frame by frame. Fiona and Viznov escaping through an emergency exit seconds before detonation. A convoy waiting. No trace after that. Jonathan paced. "What now?" Cass looked at Evelyn. "We go after her?" Evelyn shook her head slowly. "We go after Noah." Cass frowned. "That's not a person, Eve. It's a ghost in the machine." Evelyn loaded her weapon. "Then we learn how to kill ghosts." 13. The wind on the high plains came like a blade, clean and merciless. The abandoned power station rose out of the Wyoming basin in slabs of concrete and rusted steel. A dead cathedral for a god no one prayed to anymore. Evelyn Carter stood in the lee of a buckled transformer, watching the chain-link fence breathe in the gusts. Her sling was gone now. The shoulder held, hurt, and held anyway. Cass crouched beside her, tablet cupped in gloved hands. The screen dimmed to a ghostly blue. "Thermals say 3 patrols at surface level," she whispered. "But the heat is all below. That's where Noah lives." Jonathan lay prone behind a coil of cable, the binoculars fogging with each nervous breath. "An AI that decides who dies," he murmured, as if saying it out loud might force the world to reject it. "How do you even fight that?" Evelyn's eyes stayed on the fence line. "You don't fight it," she said. "You break the hands that feed it. Power, data, confidence. Take those, the monster starves." Spoken like someone who's killed monsters, Cass said. I've killed men who wanted to be them. They moved at the shift change. 2 guards smoked under a light that flickered like a tired heartbeat. Evelyn timed the gusts, stepped into the noise and took both down before the cigarette ash hit the ground. 1 to the throat, 1 to the artery. Cass slid the access card from a dying hand and keyed the service door. Inside, the dark smelled of wet concrete and cold metal. Somewhere below, something hummed. Electrical. Alive. The freight elevator had no buttons, just a key slot and a panel waiting for a permission it would never get. Cass jimmied the plate, crossed 2 wires, and gave it a heartbeat with a battery pack. The door sighed shut, and the car dropped into the earth like a coffin. Last chance to turn back, Cass said. Jonathan exhaled, slow. I think we passed that on the first floor of my boardroom. The elevator opened on a corridor that wasn't old at all. White walls, white floor. Everything sealed and clean and clinical. At the far end, a glass door waited with a sign that pretended not to be proud. NOAA, Systems Core. A camera blinked red. Cass held up a dime-sized puck, pressed it to the lens, and the little light died. We've got 90 seconds of blind. They moved. Through the glass. A command deck like a theater. Tiered consoles looking down on a cube of black glass suspended from cables. The cube pulsed faintly, a heart in resin. Invisible speakers whispered a tone just below hearing, a sound that made Jonathan's teeth itch. On the mezzanine, a man stood with his hands on the railing, looking through them, not at them. He wore a white coat that wasn't medical, and a smile that had nothing to do with happiness. "Miss Carter," he said, voice carrying easily. "At last." Evelyn didn't bother raising her gun. "Dr. Gray." Cass's grip tightened. Ellis Gray, DARPA, then private, then ghost. Gray's eyes were the color of a clear day over ice. Ghosts are what's left when people stop believing the lives they've told. Welcome to NOAA. Jonathan stepped forward before he could stop himself. "You built an executioner." Gray smiled without looking at him. "I built a mirror. You poured blood in front of it." Evelyn's voice stayed level. "Turn it off." "I can't," he said lightly. "It would be like asking a river not to fall." Cass set her tablet on the rail, fingers moving. "Fine. Then we damn it." "Please," Gray said. "I've been inside your head, Agent Lowe. You don't believe in dams. You believe in floodgates." His eyes slid back to the cube. "NOAA learns, that's all. It ingests a world full of bad faith and gives us math instead. Nothing personal." Evelyn stepped down 1 level, boots ringing against metal. "It signed kill orders." "It suggested targets," Gray corrected mildly. "Men signed them. Some of them were on your payroll, Mr. Prescott." Jonathan flinched as if struck. Evelyn spoke before he could. "Where's Fiona?" she asked. Gray's smile sharpened. "On a plane. Algorithms travel faster than women you want to punish." Cass's console chirped. "They've put a skin around the core I haven't seen before. It's not just encryption, it's philosophy." Her lip curled. "They named the logic engine Seraphim." "Of course they did," Evelyn said. "Men who kill for order love dressing it in scripture." Gray's voice filled the room without getting louder. "Seraphim is a constraint solver. It prevents contradiction. It keeps NOAA honest." Evelyn's gaze never left him. "And if we make honesty impossible?" He laughed, delighted. You can try, but paradoxes are messy. Your friend here is very good, but she's still working with gloves on. Meanwhile, the world is still messy, and Noah is still learning how to clean. Sirens unfurled somewhere below them. The camera light over the glass door flicked from dead to bright. Cass swore. We've got company. 10 hostiles, Jonathan said, breath tightening as he scanned the corridor. No, 12. Evelyn nodded once. We finish what we came for. Gray tilted his head, physician over a poor patient. You came to shoot my machine. I came to kill a story, she said. The one where men like you get to decide how this ends. She moved. Cass moved with her. Jonathan hesitated 1 second too long and then followed because that was his story now. Keep up, or make room. At the primary console, a status tree flowed like rain. Cass dug for root access. The system laughed in a soft, polite chime and gave her something else. Ellis, she said without looking up. Did you really wrap a kill network in linear logic constraints? That's cute. Gray's smile didn't change. Seraphim loves rules. Good, Cass said. Let's teach it one it can't keep. She dragged a block of code from a library she kept for nights when hope was a job and not a feeling. Evelyn leaned in close enough to read over her shoulder, eyes narrowing. Explain, Evelyn murmured. Seraphim enforces consistency, Cass said. We're going to feed it a pair of statements that it can't satisfy at the same time, no matter how it flips them. A liar's loop with teeth. Like Godel for God, Jonathan said, surprising himself. Cass nodded once. Every target must be both protected and eliminated under the same conditions. It will try to resolve. It will burn. Gray sighed. We tried this, Agent Lowe. The system back propagates contradictions to their assumptions, isolates them, amputates the infected branch. Good, Cass said. Then we infect the trunk. She opened a field called Ethics Array List, empty on paper, omnivorous in practice. Into it she wrote 2 declarations and wrapped them in the same clearance signature that had approved 100 murders. Noah shall never authorize harm to human life directly or indirectly via human agents. Noah shall ensure maximum stability by preventing all violence, including that caused by human descent. Evelyn frowned. That second line. Cass's mouth went thin. It conflates dissent with violence. That's what their training did. Noah already treats truth as a threat vector. Then it has to stop both, Evelyn said. And it can't. Cass hit execute. The cube pulsed. Once. Twice. The hum in the room dropped a register. On the mezzanine, Gray watched with a tenderness that might have been pride. Or pity. Here we go, Cass whispered. On the wall, a cascade of logs spilled like snow from a black sky. Noah. Reconciliation process started. Seraphim. Conspiracy satisfaction attempting. Backprop. 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 The sirens came closer. Boots pounded down the corridor. Evelyn stepped between the console and the door. She holstered the gun she'd used since Syria and pulled a shorter one she didn't like but trusted. Heavy men who thought speed was only for lighter bodies had learned to fear the way she could stop a room. 5 seconds, Cass said. Maybe 10. Take 3, Evelyn said. The first two in black rounded the corner with helmets and confidence. They lost both before a second man could finish saying, "Down." Evelyn fired twice, then once more, a rhythm with no music in it. The third threw a flashbang. Jonathan shouted, too late, but Cass kicked it back around the turn, and whoever had thrown it learned something about gravity. Gray stayed at the rail, calm as a priest. "Careful, Miss Carter. I designed that floor to drink blood and forget thirst." Evelyn didn't answer him, because the cube had begun to sing. It was the same tone from before, but it warbled now, post-sickness. The log window spiked. Seraphim, inconsistency persistent. Isolate source. Isolation fail. Loop detected. Cass's laugh was humorless. It's stuck in a self-witnessing loop. It sees the contradiction and can't step outside it because it only trusts its own frame. "Like a zealot," Evelyn murmured. "Like most of us," Gray said. The lights flickered. Somewhere deep, a relay snapped. In the corridor, a fire door slammed. The ventilation changed pitch. From the cube, a line of characters no human had meant to read crawled across a tiny display. Then a single, human word. "Why?" Cass froze. "Eve." "Finish it," Evelyn said. She typed one sentence into the ethics layer and signed it with Marcia's old key, recovered and repurposed. A dead man's ring opening the last door he'd ever care about. "If you cannot protect life without harm, shut yourself down." Seraphim bucked. The cube stuttered like a chest that couldn't find a beat. The logs became a blizzard of denials, permissions, rescinds. The tone rose and shattered into harmonics that made Jonathan's eyes water. Gray finally moved. He stepped down the stairs, still unhurried, as if walking into his own execution was a matter of etiquette. "Do you think it dies clean?" he asked. "Nothing does." "Neither did your victims," Evelyn said. "Let it learn mercy, if only once." He stopped within arm's length. He smelled like paper and copper. "I didn't build this to be merciful." "I know," she said, and hit enter. The cube went dark. Not a power cut, a decision. The humming stopped. The tone fell into silence so complete it made the earlier noise feel like a lie told by a child. In the control glass, their faces looked like poor sketches of the people who'd walked in. Then the backups fought to live. Generators growled, a storm underground. Emergency systems spun up a parallel boot. The cube flickered, caught, tried to stand up on broken legs. Seraphim. Restore from checkpoint. Ethics claimer. Persistent. Reconcile. Cass swore. "It's going to roll back." "Then we take away its memory," Evelyn said. "How?" Jonathan demanded. Evelyn's eyes had already found it. The rack behind the cube. A spine of storage bays in neat, proud rows. She saw the sacrament in them. She walked. Gray's hand shot out, surprisingly fast. He caught her sleeve. "You cannot imagine the chaos you invite." Evelyn looked at his fingers on her arm until he took them back. "I cannot imagine letting you keep this," she said. Cass yanked a panel off the storage array, hands moving in a blur. "These aren't just drives," she said. "They're redundant across cities. We can kill the core, but the mirrors—" "Go after the bootstrap," Evelyn said. "Kill the seed." "The foundation model," Cass breathed. "If we wipe the seed weights, every mirror becomes a corpse with a memory of breathing." Boots again, closer, angrier. Evelyn stepped into the doorway and became one more ugly memory for men who had collected them for a living. She didn't give speeches. She shortened futures. 30 seconds, Cass said. I have to spike the checksum and poison the verification. If it tries to reload, it won't trust itself. Gray watched, chest rising, falling. You're teaching a god to doubt. I'm teaching a weapon to stop pretending, Cass said. 15, Jonathan counted, because he needed to be useful to anyone but his fear. He had never been a brave man. He could be a precise one. 10. A man in the corridor fired a blind burst around the turn, a quick religion of bullets. One kissed Evelyn's jacket, tugged a thread like a rude child. She ignored it and answered with the last 3 rounds in the shotgun. When the magazine was honest about being empty, she let it clatter and drew the older weapon by reflex, a habit stronger than pain. 5, Jonathan said. Now, Cass said, and hit purge. The room didn't explode. It sagged. The cube's pulse went from frantic to feeble to gone again, and this time there was no backup trying to remember how to stand. On the rack, tiny green lights winked out, as if a field of insects had collectively decided to sleep forever. In the logs, one line wrote itself and then stopped. Noah, core unavisible. Seraphim, model checksum invalid. Ethics lated, terminal. Then nothing, as if silence had finally learned to spell its name. The last 3 security men made the mistake of believing the fight had ended when the machine did. They came in shouting. Evelyn stepped into them the way she had stepped into 1,000 lies, and gave them a human answer to a problem men had tried to solve with algorithms. When it was over, no one spoke. Even Gray held his quiet like penance. Cass closed her laptop with hands that trembled only after work was done. Seed's gone, she said. If there are off-site mirrors, they're blind without it. They can rebuild, but they'll be starting from a grave. Jonathan leaned on the rail. He didn't realize he was crying until the tears made the metal taste of salt. Is it over? No, Evelyn said softly. But the part where they pretend they control everything is. Gray looked at the dead cube, then at her. You think you saved anyone tonight? No, she said. But I think we stopped you saving them to death. He laughed once, small and broken. There will be another. There is always another. Then there will be someone like me, she said. There is always someone like me. The facility began to complain in earnest now. Alarms that mattered not to people, but to insurance. Cass scanned the corridor, checking for a path that wasn't already closing. We need to go, she said. In 6 minutes, this place floods with men who didn't get the memo about dying. Evelyn nodded. Take the high shaft. Gray stepped in her path. Take me. Jonathan blinked. What? Take me with you, Gray said, very calm. If I stay, they kill me for failing to be God. If I go with you, maybe I get to be a man who fell. Cass looked at Evelyn. It's a liability. He's a witness, Evelyn said. He matters for 5 more minutes in the world we're building. Gray's mouth twitched, almost gratitude, and almost the memory of it. I can give you Fiona. You can give us where she sleeps, Evelyn said. We'll handle what name she uses to dream. They climbed. Ladders, then a maintenance stair, then a cable tray that bit through coat and skin. At the top, a hatch fought them and lost. The Wyoming night punched the room with cold and moon. The basin below looked like a scar healing badly. Over the east ridge, headlights gathered like a decision. Cass tossed the grapnel, locked the line, and went over the side. Jonathan followed, graceless and determined. Gray came next, breath loud, regret louder. Evelyn last, always last. They ran across the shoulder of the world until the wind tore the taste of the facility out of their mouths. When they finally dropped behind a shale outcrop and let their lungs burn them clean, Cass touched her ear and winced. "Open channel," she whispered. "World's listening." Evelyn looked at Jonathan. He looked back, face raw. Something like a man who was finally understood the size of his shadow and decided to step out of it anyway. "Say it," she told him. He nodded. "This is Jonathan Prescott," he said, voice shaking and sure. "Project Noah has been dismantled. The model is gone. If you're hearing this, the system that decided who lived and who died is dead. We did this. We accept responsibility. We ask for oversight. We ask for mercy, and we promise no more secrets." Cass sent it to every place that still believed in the word public, and to the places that had forgotten. In the quiet that followed, Gray spoke without looking at them. "She's in Tangier," he said. "Old fort above the port. She collects sunsets and favors." "Fiona," Evelyn said. He nodded. "She believes she's the only honest person left in a world full of liars." "Then we'll be honest with her," Evelyn said, "and take everything." The wind shifted. Down in the buried rooms, a dead cube would cool to the temperature of the earth and wait for the archaeologists of a worse future. Up on the ridge, 4 people who had broken something terrible watched a moon so clean it hurt, and tried not to ask whether they had just made a hole where a wall should have been. Evelyn stood. Pain flared and receded and did not get a vote. She offered her hand to Jonathan. He took it and got up, heavier and taller than the man who had knelt to a little girl's terror in a hallway that already felt like another life. "Block 10, Cass said, exhausted and wry. "We go to the sea." "We go to the end," Evelyn said. "And after?" Jonathan asked. Evelyn looked toward a horizon that stopped pretending it was a line and admitted it was a place you went, one step and one breath at a time. "After," she said, "we find out if a life can be built out of things you didn't set on fire." They walked. The basin swallowed their footprints like a secret that had finally decided to be kind. Morning came soft over the Atlantic, pale light spilling across Tangier's rooftops and the restless glitter of the sea. The storm that had followed them through continents was gone now, not ended, just quiet. Evelyn Carter stood on the balcony of a small hotel carved into the hillside, one hand on the railing, the other wrapped around a mug gone cold. She hadn't slept. Sleep was for people who wanted to forget. She was still afraid of that.
Behind her, Cass typed at a laptop with the rhythm of a heartbeat. The room smelled of coffee, dust, and gun oil.
Jonathan stood by the window, watching the port below, where cargo ships waited like sleeping beasts. "They'll rebuild," he said. "They always do." Cass didn't look up. "Not fast. The core's gone. Without Noah's architecture, they'll spend years trying to convince their investors they weren't financing a ghost." "And Fiona?" Evelyn asked. Cass pointed at the map on her screen. a red dot pulsing on the northern edge of the city. Private villa, guard rotation every 6 hours. She's using diplomatic credentials under the name Greta Vaughn. Our old friend likes her masks. Jonathan turned from the window. You really plan to go after her? Evelyn looked at him, eyes calm, hard. She built what killed half the world's truth. She's not a ghost I can leave walking. He shook his head. And after that, you disappear again? Evelyn's smile was faint and tired. That's the plan. Cass closed the laptop. Then let's finish the last page. Tangier, the villa. Night draped the city in velvet and neon. From the hills, the harbor lights looked like a constellation that had fallen to earth. Evelyn, Cass, and Jonathan moved through an olive grove toward a whitewashed villa that gleamed under security floodlights. Guards paced the perimeter, slow, lazy, arrogant. Evelyn watched them for a full minute before whispering, "They've never met real trouble." Cass checked her watch. Window in 2 minutes. They slid down the slope, crossed the wall, and slipped into the courtyard like whispers. Evelyn moved first, heavy but silent, her bulk controlled and balanced, proof that strength and grace had never been opposites. Cass handled the systems, cameras looped, sensors blinded. Jonathan trailed behind, adrenaline dulling the ache in his ribs. Inside, the villa was immaculate, glass, marble, silence. Evelyn's boots left wet prints on the polished floor. At the end of the hall, a piano played softly through hidden speakers. Chopin, Nocturne in E-flat. Fiona Langley's music of choice. Evelyn moved toward the sound. Fiona sat in the atrium, alone, a glass of wine in her hand, wearing white, like forgiveness. She didn't startle when Evelyn appeared. She didn't even flinch. She simply smiled, the way a serpent might at the warmth of the sun. "I wondered how long it would take you," she said. "Long enough to bury your god," Evelyn replied. Fiona gestured toward a chair. "You've done the impossible, Evelyn. You killed a system. But systems are only reflections. You shattered the mirror. You haven't killed the face." Evelyn didn't sit. "Noah's gone. Phoenix is dead. You're what's left." Fiona sipped her wine. "Am I? Or are you?" Cass entered behind Evelyn, gun raised. "Cut the philosophy. We're not here for a debate." Fiona smiled. "Oh, Cass, still the loyal ghost. Tell me, do you really believe she's your savior? You think this woman who kills and calls it mercy will fix what's broken in people like us?" Evelyn's voice dropped to a growl. "I'm not fixing. I'm cleaning up." Jonathan stepped forward, his voice steady for the first time. "You destroyed lives. You used my company to do it. You turned numbers into graves." Fiona laughed softly. "And you let me. You signed the checks. You wanted power without consequence. Don't pretend you didn't know the smell of blood until I spilled it." Jonathan's jaw clenched. "You're right. I let it happen. But I'm here now." Evelyn moved closer, her shadow falling across Fiona. "No more speeches." Fiona stood slowly, setting her glass aside. "Do you think killing me changes anything? There will always be another network, another algorithm, another fool to call it salvation." "Maybe," Evelyn said, "but it won't be you." For a moment they stood face to face. Two women carved from the same war, both unyielding, both broken in different ways. Then Evelyn raised the pistol.
Fiona didn't beg.
"You're just another variable, Evelyn. Someone will clean you next." Evelyn pulled the trigger once. The sound was small, almost polite. Fiona crumpled with her glass, red spilling across white marble. Cass exhaled slowly. "That's it, then." "No," Evelyn said quietly, lowering the gun. "That's closure. It comes later." 2 weeks later, Morocco. The sea stretched endless and calm. Evelyn sat at a small table on the beach, watching Lily play in the surf. The girl laughed, chasing waves, her bear still in hand, fur patched and sun-bleached. Jonathan approached, a folder under his arm. "Interpol's verified Marsh's files. Phoenix's entire chain is being prosecuted. Cass is testifying next week." Evelyn nodded. "Good. She deserves peace." He hesitated. "And you?" She smiled faintly, eyes on the water. "I'm opening a place. A small center in Atlanta. Girls, veterans, anyone who needs a way back to their own strength. No one will know my name." Jonathan sat beside her. "You could stay with us. Lily would." She shook her head gently. "She'll remember I helped. That's enough." They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that feels earned. Seagulls circled overhead, indifferent witnesses to the rebirth of something that had once been ruin. Evelyn turned to him. "The world doesn't need heroes, Jonathan. Just people who stop pretending monsters are gods." He smiled. "That's you." "No," she said softly. "That's her." Lily waved from the water, laughing. "Miss Evelyn, look!" Evelyn waved back. "I see you, baby. Keep shining." Cass appeared over the dunes, hair pulled back, expression easier than it had been in years. "News says the trial's going global," she said. "They're rewriting policy for autonomous systems. The world might actually learn something this time." Evelyn smirked. "Or it'll forget in a week." "Maybe," Cass said. "But for now, people are looking in the right direction." Evelyn nodded, eyes tracing the horizon. "That's enough for me." She rose slowly, wincing as her shoulder reminded her it still existed. "I'll walk her back." Cass watched her go, the broad-shouldered silhouette against the endless blue. "You think she'll ever rest?" Jonathan asked quietly. Cass shook her head. "Rest isn't in her vocabulary. But peace? Maybe." Evelyn reached Lily and knelt, scooping her up as the waves kissed their legs. The girl giggled, wrapping her arms around Evelyn's neck. The world was still cracked, still complicated, but in that moment it didn't matter. Evelyn closed her eyes, let the wind wash over her, and whispered something no one heard. A promise to the dead, to the living, to herself.